Hey everyone, I'm here with Ashley Lanier-Pszczola. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist. She is the owner of Evergreen, and she is joining me from Georgia.
All the way from Georgia.
All the
Yeah.
way from Georgia. So I met Ashley when the training center went to the Georgia Association of Marriage and Family Therapy conference in that we had just gone to in April. I got to be at her workshop where she was talking about obsessive compulsive disorder and family systems. And as soon as it was over, I was like, Ashley, you got to get on the blog with me and our alliance. You got to become a part of it because this makes so much sense. And she agreed, thank goodness. So I didn't have to keep hounding her.
Over half of the people I see are either individuals or family systems that are impacted by OCD or kind of one of the related disorders
Mm-hmm.
that we see commonly overlap with OCD. So, in the area where my practice is like physically situated, there aren't a lot of other OCD specialists. So that keeps me pretty busy.
Oh yeah. Um, I have to tell you what was so useful to me. You made this comment. You said 2 to 3% of individuals in the United States are diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. And you said 30% are just subclinical of
Yeah.
criteria. And the fireworks went off in my brain,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's huge, right? I think that there are so many people, even people that I see come into my practice who have kind of wandered around for so long with these patterns, wondering what it is, and but they've had it for so long that it also seems normal, and we see a family component and a genetic component a lot of the
Yes.
times that it's the same way that their mom kind of interacted with the world around her.
Right.
So,
So this is
and
what people
grandma, right?
do, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so normalized that they don't
Mm-hmm.
even realize, and you heard me, I hate pathologizing things, right? But then it's like, how do you separate out where the line is of healthy and unhealthy?
Sure.
And you talked about differentiating being supportive versus accommodating the intrusive obsession,
Yeah. I
right?
think it's such a difficult piece. Again, because there's often this family component that, let's say the client that's coming into me, they're meeting criteria, but probably other people in their family are maybe subclinical or just have had never had that diagnosis, or just tend to be more anxious, but maybe are not kind of hitting the mark for OCD.
That, yep.
They I think especially in like a parent-child relationship, there's a lot of what I see with families where of course people are just trying to do what they need to do to get through the day, to like keep their schedule moving, keep their family moving along. And it builds over time to becoming these really unhelpful patterns where they're accommodating the OCD when what they think they're actually doing is supporting that person in their family. And they don't know why it's not working and why it's not making the OCD better. So helping families kind of find that line, I think is critical.
Yeah. And I wanted to share with you like just how impactful your workshop was because it gave me a reframe
Mm,
for what was happening in the family system, right? Like we could talk about, the impact of violence and how it sits in the room. And sometimes it's showing up as criticism and dismissal, or sometimes it's gotten screaming, yelling, hitting.
yeah.
Um, And when I was able to talk about the anticipation that the other family members had with that person who's subclinical OCD and not proactively accommodating. And when I was able to talk about making some agreements with that person, the identified client, making this consent around because
Yeah.
we want to help you stop suffering with the intrusive thoughts. We need to all consent to, they're not going to accommodate this. And so you need to be ready for that,
Yep.
but we're going to support you. It literally, like Ashley, it helped us map the old pattern. It helped us start to map out what the new pattern looks like.
Yeah.
And then the family starts coming in and says, "Oh, I figured something out." I said, "What'd you figure out?" They said, "I think I accommodate more when it's low level stuff than when it's high level stuff."
Yeah. It's so big. I mean, I think that that's such a great example again of like families just doing what they need to do and not being able to zoom out far enough to see the bigger impact that they're having, or what they're doing is like inadvertently keeping the OCD in place, which is the last thing that they want, which leads to all this family conflict and maybe even violence in the way that you're talking about, and frustration and
Mhm,
resentment. And
mhm,
what I think is the biggest tragedy that comes out of these situations a lot of the time, when people haven't had the family support in addition to working on the OCD individually, is that people then cut off their family members, right? Or
mhm.
it becomes so intense that families are saying like, okay, we just can't live in the same house with you, or we just can't be around you.
Yeah.
And when you have a situation like what you're describing, where the key is getting everybody on the same page and saying like, yes, this is happening, we're going to reduce the accommodation, you're not going to like it, and this is why we're doing it and why it's going to benefit everyone overall. I think that that is where those relational changes can really start to happen,
Oh my
right?
gosh, I was just thinking it, right? So
Yeah,
it helps create the second order change, right? You reframe it
totally.
as a relational problem, not a behavior problem. Because when it's behavior problem, you got to throw people out, you got to
Yep.
villainize people,
Yep.
and that changes nothing at all.
Right.
It just makes more resentment, more anger. People meet violence with more violence and
Yep.
hostility and resentment. But the other thing that I saw it do, which like is just so great, um, the reframe helped the caregivers feel capable,
Yeah. So big. Yeah.
right? And they started instantly, even in the session, the competence builds because when you talk about it as like the accommodation has good intent and the impact's falling short, right? Get a little minutia shoved in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they start to bolster their self-leadership. They start to
Yeah.
self-regulate, and it just allows the family to be their own best resource.
Absolutely. Well,
Hmm.
and in the workshop that you guys presented at GAMFT, someone had asked a question, and I think you answered it and made the comment of like saying to a parent, like, what has happened to where you think I know what's better for your child than you do,
Yeah.
right? And I think that was a really like key moment for me, because I feel like exactly what you're saying. How do we keep the parents, or if it's a couples relationship, keep the partners in the position of like, we are the ones living this relationship or this family, we are the ones who have the answers. It's just that we need to, you know, troubleshoot or change like
Hmm.
the way that we're going about it, but giving them that confidence that what they are doing can help and actually is the therapy and is the treatment,
Hmm.
in a lot of ways. Because I can do individual exposure and response prevention with somebody all day long, and if they're going right back into a family system that's accommodating the OCD,
Yeah.
we're going to see little to no progress. And everybody's going to continue to feel worn down by that. And like it's not
Yes.
helping and it's not working.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the other part that I really appreciated about your workshop was we need to figure out what everybody's roles are in being supportive in the new pattern, that everybody has a part of the healing, everybody gets to be a part of things being new, that nobody's left out of that, that even if, they're like the grandparent who visits, right? Like we need to give them a role
Yep.
in the solution. When you have this language to talk about intrusive obsessions and what the compulsion or the behavior looks like, other people were saying, "Oh, I deal with that."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think either the family system is oftentimes like over normalizing what the anxiety, or nobody's talking about it because it's coming up in more of those like taboo kind of considered subtypes of OCD, whether it's like sexual obsessions or violent obsessions or harm or things like that.
Mhm.
um so sometimes I find that to be really healing with families when like we can get that out on the table, and even with someone who doesn't have OCD can say like, oh yeah, I've had an intrusive thought about pushing somebody down the stairs before, whatever it is. That again, like you're saying, it can totally shift and reframe the what feels like a workable problem, what feels
Mhm.
like this is just my thing versus this is something that as a family we can just get through together, like any other
Yeah.
thing we can get through together.
Yeah, right? Because then people are partnering together
Yeah,
instead of turning against each other.
exactly. Or
Yeah.
expecting one person just to kind of go figure it out on their own and not being able to see what that bridge is between
Yeah.
those two
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Now, for those of you watching, like literally, how long was your workshop? 2 hours?
I think it was 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So y'all, it's a good one. Um, so you told me when we got on today, you have another workshop, right? Come the same one you're offering
Yes, so
again?
this is the same one. It's called OCD in the Family System. I'm offering it again virtually, but I've expanded it to 3 hours because it felt like 2 hours was, in a lot of ways, not enough time to really get into all of the complexity and the nitty gritty of it. So I took the feedback that people gave me at GAMFT of like what they wished we could have gotten more depth on or seen more of, and I updated the workshop to be able to do that. So it's coming up. It's on June 27th, and it's virtual, and anyone can register for that.
Well, I know. Aren't you guys glad I had Ashley join us? This is amazing. So, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. And make sure you guys check out the link for her training. And, once you go, make sure you comment and let everybody know what you learned as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me and talking about OCD with me. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah. All right, y'all. See you next time.
Bye.